question to Mr. Agnew. Welcome back to the committee.
Thank you very much, Chair, for having me back. And I think certainly this is a timely study given the government's work currently on the Indo-Pacific strategy, and that's upon which I'm going to be focusing my remarks for the next few minutes. The first area that I wanted to mention is around trade policy. We have a number of initiatives that are ongoing in the region, and certainly they hold potential for opening new market access opportunities. This includes recently announced initiatives such as our negotiations with ASEAN and Indonesia, but also the potential for CPTPP expansion and opening opportunities in underutilized markets for Canadian businesses such as Taiwan. I think it's important to go into these discussions certainly with a clear set of priorities, and that's something that we hear regularly about from our members. And I think some of the priorities that I would encourage this committee to think about in its recommendations would be firstly around tariff liberalization to ensure that our exports are remaining cost competitive, having robust digital trade chapters that ensure the protection of cross-border data flows and that data localization does not become a condition of doing business in these markets, and also enhanced regulatory dialogues to ensure that non-tariff measures such as SPS regulations in the agriculture sector do not become a barrier to trade. Certainly also in the context of CPTPP specifically, we encourage the government to maintain the high standards of the agreement and not water down its provisions when they're looking at potential accession countries in the negotiation process. The second area, of course, for the Indo-Pacific strategy in the Indo-Pacific region, of course, is China. And although the government has committed to delivering a, quote, Indo-Pacific strategy, the elements that pertain to China will certainly be quite critical for the Canadian business community. And I think it's important to be clear-eyed, not only, of course, about the size of the market, but also the geopolitical challenges that are posed by China. And how we engage with China needs to be balanced intelligently and certainly anchored also around cooperation with our allies in engaging with Beijing. The third consideration kind of goes back to what I said a moment ago around focus. The reality is that we do live in a world of finite resources, both financially for the government and also in the bandwidth and the human resources to deliver upon a foreign policy agenda. It would not be realistic to expect that our country can make a push in all sectors and in all countries in the region equally. And we need to be judicious about how we go about selecting markets of focus and the priority sectors that we are pursuing in those countries. The fourth and final area that I want to mention is around the role of non-governmental entities in bolstering trade relationships through the region and on-the-ground connections. Businesses are the ones that engage in commerce at the end of the day rather than governments, and in doing so, they actually play an important part in the Canadian footprint in the region. And I think government should see trade missions and other activities that facilitate those connections as part of a broader set of foreign policy tools at our disposal. I know that when I travel abroad on behalf of the Canadian Chamber, I represent not only my organization, but also what foreign nationals perceive about Canada and Canadians. Therefore, strong industry-government collaboration, I think, is mutually reinforcing. Thank you for your attention and look forward to your questions.